Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is 7:04. If we could take our spots and our seats, and thanks everybody again for being here. I am going to call the January 16th meeting of the Common Council to order. And before we do a roll call, I'll just let all of our TV viewers and semi-late arrivals know why there are twice as many people up here as normal. We are doing a student government tonight with members of the West Dallas Youth Commission, and they will be joining us to just kind of go through the agenda with certain council members and myself, answer any questions, and just get a deeper level of exposure to their local government. So thanks for bearing with us. If you hear some people casting votes whose voices you may not recognize very often, we're happy to have them with us. They do a lot of great work in the community. So with that being said, thank you. I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Alderperson Rote.
Here.
Stefanski.
Here.
Turner.
Here.
Vitale.
He is excused.
Grisham. Here. Haas.
Here.
Keen. Say here. Here. Lysick.
Here.
Reinke. Here. 8 present, 1 excused.
Okay, we have a quorum. Please rise if you are able and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led this evening by Alderman Rote.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will move on to item D on our agendas. We are going to shift the order on these. We are going to take item 2 first, and then because items 1 and item 3 are the same presenter, we'll take those up second and third. So I'll ask the clerk to read out the public hearing, number 2.
Resolution to confirm and adopt the report of the city engineer containing the schedule of proposed assessments for improvement of the general area bounded by West Cleveland Avenue to Union Pacific Railroad, South 92nd Street to South 78th Street.
Thank you, and I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Melinda Dieske, and I am the city engineer. Tonight with me is Rob Hutter. He is the assistant city engineer, and we are discussing the 2024 sidewalk repair program for this public hearing. So as the clerk stated, the area for 2024 is bounded by West Cleveland Avenue on the south, Union Pacific Railroad on the north, South 92nd on the west, and South 78th on the east. The city has a program where we inspect a tenth of the city every year, and we endeavor to construct that section every year. But sometimes that gets delayed due to different issues such as budget constraints and that. But we're moving forward with a 2024 proposal this year. The items that we look for when we go out and do inspections for sidewalk program are cracked sidewalk, extensive displacements, settling slabs, and heaving slabs. We also look at driveway approaches and look for damage in those, as well as carriage walks, the small section of concrete between the curb and gutter and the sidewalk. So when we identify an area, we put it on the list, and we figure out how much that is per property, and we send out a notice to everybody to come and voice their opinion at the public hearing. But the project involves a full replacement of the damaged items. So we would remove all the old slabs or the damaged driveway approach or carriage walk, put in new concrete, get it finished properly. It's inspected by city staff, and so we make sure it's done proper. Around city trees, we do a little tree arc, so we narrow it around the tree to allow some space for the city tree to grow. Benefits of having the sidewalk program is we are able to remove the broken, raised, or settled sidewalks because those are hazards in the public way for pedestrians and other users. Property owners are benefited because the sidewalks are easier to shovel, easier to traverse, they're not heaved, and they conform to city requirements to be free of ice and snow. The city can avoid costly lawsuits. And in this project, there were 2,068 properties that were inspected, with about 300 to 400 properties that were identified needing sidewalk repairs. We're estimating the cost of this project to be $330,000. And this area was last inspected in 2005. People in this area received an estimate of special assessment. That's an estimate. We won't send out the final bill until the work is completed, which we would anticipate to be March of 2025. There's a couple different payment options. If it's a lump sum, it's a lump sum option for any bill that's less than $100. A 5-year installment if the bill is between $100 and $250, and a 10-year installment for any amounts over $250. So for a $250 bill over a 10-year period, then there's a 4% interest charge on that. The first payment would be $35, and then the 10th year would be $26. We charge the interest rate because we borrow funds for these projects, and so we cover our interest, help cover our interest rates with that charge. The city does not make any kind of profit on the interest charged. The city has a history of using the special assessment method for infrastructure projects. On this project, we will collect approximately $140,000 in special assessments, which is about 45% of the total cost. The assessment rate is $3.72 per square foot for all residential properties, no matter where you are in the city, and no matter how high the bid prices end up getting, so everybody is treated equally. And the Wisconsin state law allows cities to implement a special assessment policy so that we can recoup portions of our costs. It's not included in your tax levy. The special assessment method is used often by municipalities to ensure that everybody pays a portion of the cost of the project, because if you include it in your tax levy, then tax-exempt properties like churches and schools and county parks would not pay. So the cost would actually increase for residential properties. By using this method, we are able to treat and have everybody pay their share of the project. During the project, we have a construction in progress report where if you sign up, you can receive emails or text messages on how the project is going, different updates, when things might be closing, or areas that we're working in. So it's a good way to keep track of the project. So if the project were to move forward, it would be a great thing for everybody to sign up. We would encourage people to sign up and get up-to-date notices on the project. And with that, I think we're conclude our presentation.
All right, thanks very much for the presentation. For those of you that don't know, what we do on these public hearings is once they're concluded, we take questions and comments from the members of the Common Council, and then when they are done, we take questions or comments from the members of the audience. So are there any members of the Common Council that have questions on public hearing number 2?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Haas.
Yeah, Melinda, does every property owner with a sidewalk receive a special assessment, or is it every property owner with a sidewalk that needs to be repaired receives a special assessment?
Every property owner that has a sidewalk that needs repair.
And so if a person doesn't have any sidewalks, they, of course, would not receive a special assessment then?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the Common Council? Okay, seeing none, are there any members in our audience this evening that have questions on public hearing number 2? Okay, and just so you know, when it comes to the point on future public hearings, if you do have questions, we will ask you to come up to the podium, sign in either before or after your comments, and turn on the microphone before you speak. So thank you. All right, with that, then we will close public hearing number 2. Thank you for the presentation. And I will allow for a line change. And I'll ask the clerk to read public hearing number 1.
Ordinance to rezone property located at 2211 South 60th Street from RB residential to RC residential.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to staff. Mr. Scher.
Thanks, Mayor. My name is Steve Scher. I'm the manager of planning and zoning. And our second hearing this evening is the subject of Longfellow School, the property at 60th and Grant. The address 2211 South 60th Street. The purpose of this hearing is to consider rezoning the property. It's currently zoned RB residential, and to rezone it to RC residential, which is a little bit higher density residence district, and also allowing for larger lot development, such as this almost 2.5 acre site. As many of you may know, the Longfellow School ceased operations as a result of school district consolidation, 3 schools closing, and this being one of the 3. The school district sent out a request for proposals to the development community and received feedback from several. They selected a developer called Housing for All, and their real estate development plan is to purchase the property from the West Dallas, West Milwaukee School District, and then redevelop it for a total of 51 units of housing. This makes it a taxable property with an estimated value between $4 and $6 million. The existing school building on site is roughly 3 floors. The original addition, the 1927 original portion of the building, is 3 floors in height. And then subsequent additions over the years, more recently, are lower in nature, about 1 story for the gymnasium. This is the zoning map. There's a number of different shades of colors here, but the different districts, the RB district is what the property is currently zoned, and that's similar to the lower density residential, both east and west of 60th and 61st Street. The RC district is a little bit higher density, and you can see some of that in the immediate area as well. Just north of the site, north of Grant Street on 60th Street, as well as the St. Rita's property, the church and school are actually zoned RC further south. But what that does, both districts, the existing RB, as well as the proposed RC, both allow multifamily residential. The difference is that the maximum lot width in the RB district is 80 feet. And when you take a look at and consider the size of the 2.5 acres of Longfellow site, it's about 300 feet east to west and about 400 feet north to south. So it doesn't conform with an existing RB zoning. So for that purpose, instead of, I guess, going through a conditional use process and the developer requesting variances of the Common Council, staff recommended that the developer pursue an RC rezoning, which not only suits the proposed development intent, but the existing lot size and configuration of that property. The redevelopment concept is shown here. These images are conceptual. The purpose of this hearing is really the rezoning, but the developer has provided some basic concepts in terms of the site plan and the future look of the property. This is on the right here. This is the existing Longfellow building, this L-shaped, upside-down L shape here. 60th Street is on your right, Grant Street on the north top end, and then 61st Street is on the west side, on the left side of the screen. And this is a new building that would be constructed, a 2-story, 31-unit apartment building. And the look of it is shown here. It's a little bit of a variation. It's sort of mimicking the architecture of the neighborhood. There's I guess, an eclectic mix of homes west of 61st Street, ranging in size from like 40-foot wide lots to about 120 feet deep, and a number of different 1, 2, and maybe some 3-story homes in that area. This the proposed look is really in concept to sort of mimic the historic architecture of the neighborhood and pay it respect. So for a good scale and not to be too overbearing within the context of the neighborhood. So the developer is also going to be potentially coming back to the city's planning commission, but that's dependent on their application. They've submitted a tax credit application for building tax credits through WIDA, and that application was submitted last year, and they expect the turnaround on an answer that probably later this month or next, and at which point they would transition into design plans and then bring those design plans back to the City Planning Commission. The developers also expressed an interest in, at that point, should that go forward, having a neighborhood meeting or an open house, perhaps at the Longfellow site, or it could even be here, just to bring the neighborhood in on the, being part of the future design concept and layout. In terms of the developer, Housing for All, their focus is on creating and preserving high-quality, mixed-income rental communities, incorporating green, sustainable practices within their developments. They build and hold developments so that they're in it for the long haul, and they have property management services as well as marketing and asset management services for a complete holistic package. The community amenities that they're offering here on the site that they've indicated so far would be to maintain the gymnasium and actually use that as an amenity for this development. It would serve the people that live here, and I guess without getting too far ahead, perhaps that even could be programmed for some public events. But there is also a playground area that would be maintained on the site and updated for the use of the neighborhood kids and families in the area. And that was something that was expressed as part of a community outreach by the school district late last year, actually of 2022. The design, as mentioned, along 61st Street for the new building, it will be designed in a manner to respect the adjacent neighborhood. And then the adaptive reuse of the existing school building is something that's they're also pursuing historic tax credits for. So that's a long-standing building within this neighborhood. It's been there for nearly 100 years, and it's something that the neighborhood is accustomed to, and it's nice to see an adaptive reuse of an older school building if it's not going to be a school anymore. There will be on-site parking, and then 2 access points are shown in this concept, one on 60th Street and then also another on 61st Street. The front yards, it may be a little bit hard to tell here, but there is proposed to be a front yard in front of this building with landscaping, perimeter landscaping around the site, walkable access up to the buildings from 61st or from 60th, from Grant Street, all of that being maintained and improved for the new development. The unit mix of those 51 units is 20 one-bedroom units, 18 two-bedroom units, and 13 three-bedroom units. They do have a property manager that they utilize, Lutheran Social Services, and their schedule, again, would be for tax credits would be announced. I'm sorry, I may have understated that earlier. Tax credits would be announced in May of 2024, at which point, around that point, Plan Commission design review would take place. And then, if all goes well, construction starting the spring of 2025 and completed mid-2026. The zoning summary, the RC district is a best fit for redeveloping this property, as it allows for the adaptive reuse, and there aren't needs for variances to overcome some of the shortcomings of the RB district. Housing is a suitable reuse for this site. Apartments are likely the highest and best use, and the parcel is also adjacent to other residential, commercial, and multifamily uses within the immediate area. So the RC district would not be considered a spot zone or an outlier to this neighborhood. There's other RC within the immediate area. So last month in December, Plan Commission recommended approval of the rezoning ordinance. And there was publication given within the Daily Reporter, the official paper, and property owners were notified. In total, about 105 property owners within 200 feet were notified of tonight's public hearing. We have received some comments to date, both verbally, over the phone, some emails, but comments generally speaking are questions on the proposed reuse, the number of units, the property value, maintenance, parking, and traffic. That concludes my public hearing. If there's any questions, I'm happy to help.
Thank you much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Are there questions from the members of the Common Council on this item?
Mayor Devine?
Divine,
Go ahead, Rosalie.
Alderperson Ranky?
you mentioned, Steve, that there will be on-site parking. Are they planning on having any garages on site?
There will not be garages. This is surface parking on this property of a total about, what they're showing here, about 45 parking stalls. And those would be internally within the, I guess, the courtyard, the center portion of the development area, away from the street frontages.
Thank you.
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Stefanski?
Steve, does that building currently have elevators in it?
I would have to defer to maybe someone here from the school district, or I don't know offhand if it does.
If it does not, in order to have apartments in there, would they need to have that for ADA compliance and stuff?
I believe that would be something that would come out in the future design plans. It would have to meet code and ADA accessibility, and that might, as part of the change in use, that may have to happen or occur as part of the redevelopment. But I could certainly find out the answer to that question. I could talk to Mike maybe after this hearing.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions from the Common Council? Steve, I had a question from my student on the cost of the project.
Sure. The total cost of this is about $18 million, and of that, about $4 to $6 million will be taxable.
Thank you.
So there's a number of, the acquisition, and there's a number of, to retrofit something and to build something new, it costs a lot of money, with construction costs being higher than years ago. But yeah, so.
Thank you. If there are no questions then further from the council, are there any questions from the members of the audience on public hearing number 1? If you could come up to the microphone, please, give us your name and address for our official record, and then press the, I think it's the right button to turn the light green.
Keith Billwalk, 725 South 122nd Street. I missed the number of units you had in that building. How many units did you say?
Sure, yeah, the existing Longfellow building will have 20 units, and the new building along 61st will have 30 units. Total of 51. I think I'm off by a number here, but there's total of 51 units.
Okay, and they were 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments. So
One,
two and
two, and three, yeah.
2 and 3 bedroom apartments, usually going to have people that have at least 2 cars or something, but you only have 45 parking spaces.
Yeah.
Where are the rest of those cars going to go?
Not everybody drives. I mean, the Housing for All developer, and I guess just aside from their application to us, we're finding that even in some of the newer developments around the farmers market, not everybody drives. So, in some of those cases, there's a 1-to-1 ratio, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, but we're finding from the development community that not all of the tenants drive a car. They have other means of getting around. This is the beauty of being in a city.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the members of the audience on public hearing number 1? Yes, please. Oh, can we ask you to turn your microphone on, sir, when you get time?
Okay. My name is Doug Gendron, and I live at 2261 South 60th Street, which isn't quite shown on that map there, but of course I'm concerned about several aspects of this, just for my and my neighbors, I guess, living quality of life sort of thing. So I live in the house that's just north of that east-west alley on 60th Street. And I was wondering whether you're planning on having through traffic in that alley. I couldn't quite tell from the drawing that was up there whether or not traffic would be able to access the site from the east-west alley going north.
I don't have the answer. I mean, it's certainly a possibility, but as of right now, it's not being shown as such. Now, that could just be an oversight on the behalf of the designer, but those details will definitely come about at a future point that we would certainly be in touch with the neighborhood and the elders of the district just to talk about access management to the site and ways in and ways out.
Okay, well, that would be, basically, then that alley, that north-south alley would be a short thoroughfare, and I don't think it's set up for that. You know, we live there, that's part of our neighborhood. We end up shoveling the alley quite often. And another thing about it is that the east-west alley is often used as a quick cross in order to avoid the traffic light at 60th Street. Traffic comes through there pretty fast, and well, a lot of times. And I would anticipate that would be a dangerous intersection if we had people running in and out from the housing development, and also people, you know, wanting to back out of their garages, for example. That is no place for large numbers of vehicles coming through. You know, we got used to it when the school was there. We realized that the teachers had to get in the morning and maybe get out at noon and come back in, get out in the afternoon. But to have that many units there, having access to the alley that we have to exit into from our garage, I think would be, I'm sure that it would be a dangerous situation. I'm not predicting anything, but it's not a thoroughfare, and it shouldn't be used by that, in my opinion, shouldn't be used by that property. So I did want to express that, and I'm a little bit concerned about the density of housing. Maybe you've had a traffic engineer see how this development would affect the 61st Street and Grant. I don't know if you have or not. I would anticipate that it would have to be widened. Right now you've got parking on both sides. Maybe you'd have to prevent parking there rather than, as the plan suggests, using it as parking. Or if there's land that needs to be taken, it would be taken from houses that already have fairly short front yards. So there's another quality of life aspect. And I actually wondered whether or not the city or the developer has any plans for those 6 housing properties that are south of the school. There are 2 properties on 61st Street, and there are 4 on 60th Street, and 2 of my neighbors actually exit out into the orange line there. You know, I don't know whether the alley is going to be left as it is, or there's not a whole lot of room to widen to take from our properties to add to that alley's width. So, what about traffic? Have you had a traffic engineer who analyzed this and said that, you know, there are going to be changes necessary as a result of all the vehicles there?
That's all forthcoming. So the concept here, or the public hearing, is really about the zoning of the property, changing the zoning from RB to RC. And then the more detailed design plans will come before the city at a future date if the developer's tax credit application is successful. And then we would come back to the Planning Commission, our city engineering team, code enforcement team, among others, would be involved in evaluating, you know, traffic counts, the proposed impacts on the existing system, and whether or not changes are needed. So that it's certainly about, you know, will happen should this development go forward. But at this point, the plans that I'm showing are really just purely conceptual, just in the nature of, you know, just asking a question. If I say we're going to propose to rezone a property, say, well, for what? So, I mean, I guess I'm just showing a concept at this point. And the more detailed things that you're asking for are definitely going to be are great questions and things that will get fleshed out as we move forward.
Well, I don't know much about zoning. If I heard it correctly, the RB has a limit of 80-foot lot width, and the RC can be wider. Is that right?
Yeah, the RC district is for the larger lot development, whereas the RB is a little bit, you know, the smaller, more traditional neighborhood lot development, yeah.
Yeah, well, I would object strenuously to allowing that property's traffic to access that north-south alley between the T and the property. If it's proposed that that would happen, I just want to let you know. And I do think it would badly affect the quality of life for the people who live there. Another thing is, I don't know, I couldn't tell, you are anticipating having access to 60th Street, right, as well as 61st Street?
Yeah, the conceptual plans show an access point on 60th and one on 61st. And that's just, again, these are just purely conceptual at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
these aren't set in stone.
Yeah, well, 60th Street is a pretty busy street. People who want to exit onto 60th Street from the alley often sit there for several minutes, depending on the time of day. It could be several minutes that they're waiting to get out of there. In any case, I would envision traffic backed up wanting to get out of there, so they typically might decide, oh, I'm going to get out onto 61st Street and get onto Lincoln from there, which is not a great situation either if they wanted to get on Lincoln. But there, as Mayor probably knows, there are almost weekly accidents there on 60th and Lincoln. It is not a good place to turn left from. How many times, I can't tell you, we've had accidents there. So I'm just surprised that no traffic study has been done ahead of time to determine what you're going to need in terms of changes to the pavement out there. And could I ask who's the major funding source for this project?
The finances are still being worked out, but Housing for All is the buyer of real estate, and they're pursuing historic tax credits and then WIDA tax credits for completing the project that they have here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I appreciate your listening to me. It's nice to see what you guys have planned. I'd like to see something good happen with that property too. But I'm concerned about the density and the fact that you haven't presented anything having to do with traffic. It's going to be a major disruption for people on 61st Street. And like I said, for anybody who wants to use that north-south alley. So thanks for listening to me.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Gendron. Does anybody else wish to address the council under public hearing number 1? Go ahead. I think the microphone's on because the
thanks,
green light's there,
okay.
but we just need your name
Hi,
and address.
yeah, my name's Claire Fons. I live at 2210, so like literally right across the street on 60th. So my understanding is, I sent I think the planner a very long email, which I appreciate the very thorough response to, is you don't want me to talk for like 15 minutes about my questions that don't have to do with rezoning, because I have a lot of thoughts on the matter. But if you didn't rezone it, or if you didn't change the rezoning, would that limit the quantity of units they would theoretically put? Or
No.
would they just go about trying to still get back to 51 in roundabout ways?
They could still pursue the same number under RB zoning. The difference is that they would have to ask for some variances, just given that the lot width. Yeah.
Okay, because I agree, like, I had said in my email that the traffic, just even having Beloit open again, I noticed the difference. So having 51 units where clearly, even if people, in theory, don't all drive, again, if they have visitors, or maybe they all do drive and they're just gonna park somewhere, we're not gonna like it. There's just no way around it. Having people consistently, that many people adding to the neighborhood, that's too many. It's too many units. I grew up in Bayview. I saw, like, I'm 35, from the beginning of when Bayview was garbage people didn't want to go to now, and that's not appropriate use of the property. Shoving 51 units in there is not appropriate use of that property. So, I mean, I could see 30, maybe. My other thing is that always, like from the beginning, there had been this concept of green space. And in my mind, that's something that can be utilized by people who don't have children to maybe sit, read a book, and it sounds like you're just revamping a playground. So why, I don't have a child, there's not really anything that I can utilize a playground for. So green space seems to have been a little bit misleading as far as what is going to be put there. So I guess I just don't appreciate that being a bit misleading as far as how that's being reutilized. Unless what's being said right now is different than what they plan on doing, but it sounds like it's just a nicer playground. I could go on with my question. Please do? Okay. So big concern I have is actually, what's the name again of the
Developer?
the development company?
Housing for all.
Housing for all. Okay. I don't want to be judged in saying this, so please don't judge me with this. But I'm very concerned about this being utilized as low-income housing. Is this something that's going to be accessible as low-income housing? Because when I asked the general price of maybe one of these or units, I was told the salary, some were designed for people who make, say, $50,000 a year, and some would be for $30,000 a year. I bought my house in October, and I'm not going to tell you how much I make, but the housing market is awful right now. I'm imagining how much a person who makes $50,000 or $30,000 could pay in rent, and I would appreciate a rent estimate from this company about how much they think they're going to charge for these units, because I'm trying to think of what someone who makes $30,000 could pay for a unit, and it's not much. And with what our limit is for what low-income housing can utilize, if it's allowed to fit under that, and I know I am Lutheran. I know what Lutheran Social Services does, and I just have concerns that it's going to turn into low-income housing, or at least a good chunk of it will, and that brings down property value. Unfortunately, part of it is not necessarily the people who live there. Part of it is the caretakers of the property, but that is a significant concern. Again, I think learn from Bayview about how they utilize their old buildings and their area, and take that forward with how you use this space, because there is a beautiful old building, there's opportunity for housing, but I think this is not appropriate. I think that's the majority of what I have to say. Yeah, that's probably it. The low-income housing, the 30 to 50, I want to know what you're charging for those units, because it can't be a lot, or someone wouldn't, I mean, think $30,000 after taxes if they're trying to save any money. How much do you think you're going to be able to charge for a unit? It's not that much. It's what, maybe 500? Think something like that? Yeah. So it's very easy if you have a family of 3 kids, say, to fall into that bracket of low-income housing. If you allow housing for all, sounds like they will utilize that. Milwaukee will utilize that. And I think it would be unfortunate for the neighborhood if it ended up tanking what West Dallas is trying to recreate. 4 Points is beautiful. Like, obviously those buildings don't make any sense for that area. That does make sense. That structure makes sense to fit into the neighborhood. But, you know, we have Corvina, beautiful. There's a vegan restaurant that's on the way or coming in. I think they have to redo what used to be a pizza place. So we're trying to build and make people want to come to West Dallas, not make people think, everyone knows the phrase dirty Dallas. We're not trying to recreate dirty Dallas. So just be very thoughtful in how you approach this project, that it doesn't bring us down, it brings us up. I think I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Does anybody else have comments on public hearing number 1?
Mayor Devine?
Alderperson Keene?
I actually had a quick question. Steve, when Longfellow was open, where was the drop-off for kids? Because I'm assuming that parents would drive by, drop off, and pick up 5 days a week. Where was that occurring?
I believe that was taking place on the, on the Grant Street side. I know there's a ramp that enters the school here in Grant. Now, there may be other points too, maybe along 60th, but I think that in terms of safety, 61st or Grant Street were probably the two best options to, if you were dropping somebody off, to do it safely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mark Vogel, 2226 South 60th. I live directly across the street. I have a lot of concerns about the traffic and congestion. I no longer work. In the summer, I'll invite anyone to come sit on my porch and have coffee with me. I will tell you that the bike lanes are passing lanes. You narrowed 60th Street because it would appear narrower and people would go slower. They go faster. The city could probably, if driving in the bike lane is a ticketable offense, you could make lots of money by having cops sit there. And when Beloit Street was under construction, southbound 60th, both lanes, the bike lane and the normal lane, were packed solid during rush hour on the way home. So traffic and congestion are a big concern. You're gonna have them come in and out on 60th Street, making a left-hand turn, going north on 60th to get into that parking lot. I hope there's an ambulance depot real close, because there will be huge accidents because of the way people drive. It's ridiculous. There's not enough parking in there. 45, you can tell me all you want, not everyone drives, but that may be, but then you've got the 2 and 3 bedroom places where people will have 2 cars, because that's just the way it is in society today. Granted, some may not drive, but a lot of families have 2 vehicles. To have 45 surface lots, spaces for 51 buildings or apartments, no way. So that means they're going to be parking on the street. They'll be parking on Grant, 60th, and 61st. It will be a nightmare. And look at what just happened with the snow. Where are they all going to go? I have no idea. And the aesthetics of the area, with it being this oblong building that they're going to put up there, it just doesn't match all the single and 2-family dwellings that are there. I agree with decreased property values if we have low-income housing there. I realize you want to repurpose the building, but maybe there can be some other uses for it besides apartments. You're going to make a decision on this rezoning before the summer comes, but every one of you can come and sit on my porch with me at 5:30, 6 o'clock when the rush hour starts. It's ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on public hearing number 1? Okay. Thank you all for your comments. We will close public hearing number 1. And I will ask the clerk to read out public hearing number 2.
Conditional use permit for West Dallas Food Truck Park, a proposed restaurant at 8443 West Cleveland Avenue.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. The owners of Michael's Restaurant, who recently purchased it last year, are interested in also repurposing the parking lot they own. So just to show you underneath the, well, right about here, if you can see the cursor, this is Michael's Restaurant, the second from the corner. And they also own these 2 other lots. Actually, it looks like one lot, but it's actually 2 separate lots one with a garage and one for parking. Those will be, they'd like to convert to a food truck park, and the garage will be repurposed for a three-season, with an addition with a three-season area and tiki bar, and then also a small coffee vendor, and then space for up to 6 food trucks around the site, and we'll get into the site plan a little bit. But in general, the hours stated in their application are Sunday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and then Friday, Saturday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. Now, that's just what's stated in their initial application. Since that time, they've scaled back their proposal a little bit in terms of the hours. Basically, with the food trucks being open, I believe it's 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday through Thursday, with the bar being open just one hour more, and then Friday to Saturday, 10 a.m. to I think it's 10 p.m. for the food trucks, and then with the bar open being one hour more. Make that 9 p.m. on Friday, Saturday, 1 hour more for the bar. So, and with the zoning being C2, it is considered a conditional use, and is treated similar to a restaurant when it's off-site on premise. So a total of 6 food trucks, and it'll be easier to see them in the color rendering next, but a temporary coffee kiosk here, a bar with indoor seating. This is the garage, the existing garage here, and then there's the garage addition being added, and then additional outdoor games, picnic tables, the patio lights, cornhole games, and other games of skill for hanging out while you're there on site. Just an aerial view of now and the future. You can see the new added-on garage will feature 2 ADA restrooms, up to 6 food trucks. There is access shown actually off of Cleveland Avenue and then into the site through a gated entry on the west side of or east side of the alley, and then the south side primarily being open for egress as well as ingress for a couple more food trucks on the east side of the site. The picnic tables for outdoor seating and games here. The garage would also feature roll-up glass windows for the indoor-outdoor feel. Bicycle parking would be added in one of the angled parking stalls along Cleveland Avenue. And then in terms of architecture, the exterior remodel would feature a gray tones with board and batten siding, glass overhead doors, and then some new darker gray shingled roofs. And then just continuation of windows around the east side of the facade. And then the south exterior is fairly solid as it faces an alley. This is a closer view of the floor plan. So the blue area is the existing garage area, about close to 600 square feet. And then the addition, which would accommodate the restrooms, and then the seating area would be out in front here, about a little over 700 square feet. So this is north facing Cleveland Avenue, and then this is west and south here. In terms of taking a look at the lot breakdown, the site does consist of 2 lots, and they are detached or separate from Michael's Restaurant. This is a separate operation for Michael's. While it's owned by the Michael's owners, I don't think it's going to be called Michael's Food Truck Park. It'll have a different name and a completely different operation. The licensing, it would have a separate license, and it's my understanding that the Michael's liquor license would be transferred at a future date, a future council meeting, from Michael's to this site to accommodate the tavern use that they hope to have here. There is parking, not only in the city right-of-way, in this blue area here. This is angled parking. It's actually technically in city right-of-way, as well as street parking along Cleveland Avenue, and then also along the east side of the site facing 84th Street. There's an alley that runs north-south, I guess south of Cleveland Avenue, and then wraps around and then heads back east over to 84th Street. McCarty Park is nearby, and we took a look at available parking within the area, and this does consider street parking. In terms of off-site parking, within a tenth of a mile, or, roughly 525 feet, 2-minute walk, there's about 92 parking stalls. And then in addition, there's street parking along 84th and along Cleveland within this tighter 2-minute walk radius. And then in terms of other parks, the McCarty Park is to the east, and they have a 114 stall parking lot just east of 84th Street. So there are, I guess, at least 92 parking stalls within a very short walk, and then if you factor in the additional 114 stalls, I guess a little bit further walk, but again, certainly not out of the realm of possibility. Plan Commission has recommended approval. It has been noticed in the official paper. Property owners within 200 feet, actually a little bit further than that west, have been notified. Comments received to date, sort of questions on the proposed use, the number of food trucks, screening, parking, maintenance, and noise concerns. I should add, though, that with the Plan Commission's recommendation for approval, subject to council approval of the conditional use permit and council's approval of a license transfer is needed. And then in terms of the more technical specs, details, the Plan Commission wanted to know details of the refuse location on the site, the frequency of pickup, and by commercial hauler. The ownership has indicated that they would do, the location of refuse would be at the Michaels site, and the frequency of pickup would be at least 2 days per week. Each of the food trucks will be served by an electrical service, so there won't be an allowance for generators. In other words, generators create noise, and that can create nuisance problems within the neighborhood. So the ownership is coming out of the gates proposing an electrical service for each food truck that's there, so there'll be no need, no purpose for a generator running on site. The submittal of a certified survey map, just to combine those two parking lots into one lot of record. And then lastly, completion of all building and site improvements prior to opening. So those are the conditions that Plan Commission had sought, and let me share them with you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there questions from the Common Council on public hearing number 3?
Mayor Devine?
Ooh, that was a tie.
Alderman Rowe, please go ahead.
Alderman Rote.
What were the hours again? They seem to be a moving target there in the last 5 minutes.
I apologize, I didn't get the right ones into the PowerPoint, but let's see if I can have my notes here. The hours, if I don't find my notes, I'm going to call upon Sam or Lee.
So I'm Sam, one of the owners, Michael's.
Up to the mic, please.
Yeah, Sam Speaker, one of the owners of Michael's. We have spoken with the neighborhood to kind of adjust the rules. That's why it's moved a little bit. But the plan right now is weeknights, so Sunday through Thursday. Food trucks would stop serving at 8, giving people time to finish their food and head out. The bar will be closing at 9. And then weekends, that'll be moved back an hour. So food trucks will be closing at 9. The bar is planning on closing at 10. Right now, our plan is to open at 10 a.m. daily.
Anything else, Alderman Rote?
Oh, I'm sorry, no.
Okay.
I'm
I
good.
didn't know if you were in deep thought or if you...
No, I'm still shoveling snow.
Alderperson Grisham.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Steve, for the presentation. You did touch point on the noise, which would have been something that I was going to ask, because generators obviously produce a volume of noise, and I just wanted to see what the residents' feedback was on that.
That definitely was a residential concern with the neighbors. We will be quote-unquote leasing the spaces to the food trucks. In the lease, it will say not only that they are not allowed to use a generator, so that we will be running all electrical service. So it's not that they don't need them, they're not allowed to, because we don't want it to be a nuisance. The other things we've done to help kind of mitigate some of the noise concern is we've looked into like the wood fencing that will be along the alley. We're getting one of those poly blended woods that are supposed to dampen noise. The neighbor closest on the west had concerns about the view and the noise. And so we talked about adding in a rolling gate on the west side of it to help mitigate it as much as possible. And then, again, doing hours that are very in conjunction with what the neighborhood kind of requested.
And I appreciate that very much. Hearing your business model is great. The first step is really working and being a good steward in the community to your neighbors. As you look for these conditional uses and it's more of an outdoor vibe going on, I'm assuming that at some point you're going to want music and other things that might at some point, I'd cross that bridge before, I'd take
Yeah.
care of that before I would cross that bridge with your neighbors so they're aware.
Yeah, that's, so far, when we've discussed everything with the neighbors, we will not be having outside speakers.
Okay.
And then if we add them, we have said, like, we intend to come talk to the neighborhood first, but we have no plans right now to have outside speakers. There will be speakers inside of the bar, so some of that noise obviously might bleed out, but not putting the speakers outside to help mitigate, that somebody's not hearing rock music while they're sitting in their backyard. You might just hear some muffled music.
Fantastic. And my student actually had a question I'm going to ask in Adrian's behalf. You have the food trucks, but it's a bar environment. And you have students or younger youth that couldn't go in a bar, for example, but might be attracted to come to get food.
Yep.
Is this something that would be exclusive just to adults?
No, not at all. Our plan is actually we're trying to have this be a family-friendly spot. Being this close to McCarthy Park, we would love to be, ideally, somebody's got a break in between T-ball games, they're coming over to get some lunch. Our plan is to offer like adult frozen beverages as well as, slushies for kids. One of the food trucks we've talked to has been like carnival or fair themed desserts. So it is not meant to be an adults only place. It will be offering some non-alcoholic cocktail options, some mocktails, as well as some, fun stuff for kids. I have a kid on the way. And so at Zocalo in South Milwaukee or Bayview, that's kind of, the concept we're modeling after, where it's not meant to be a bar. We really have said from the start that, we never intended to do late nights for that. We're not trying to be a sports bar. We're not going to have dollar beer nights or anything. It really will try to be a mixed-use, family-friendly thing. And the licensing should fall under a restaurant, so a restaurant tavern, not a bar. So, for insurance purposes, our sales are going to have to be balanced off of, food versus liquor. So we have no intention of being super alcohol forward. We want to do some fun tiki cocktails to, again, kind of help manage the expectations. So, not doing, cheap shots and bomb specials, but having, a nice tiki flight where, mom and dad can have that, the kid can have, a virgin pina colada, and they can all try different foods together.
Okay, and I think that's what Adrian was gearing towards because, he didn't want to be in the mixed company of those that are drinking alcohol, but feels safe that he could come there.
Yep.
So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the Common Council?
Mayor Devine,
Alderperson Reinke.
I frequent Michael's Restaurant often, and the parking is an issue with the restaurant as far as the number of cars that are parked there. And then with this venue, which is a interesting concept, I have to commend you, I'm wondering if the parking in the neighborhood would be acceptable to the neighbors. I mean, this is mostly, you have indicated, or Steve has indicated, that there's parking at McCarty Park. People don't tend to like to walk that far for entertainment. However, I'm worried that they would tend to park in the neighborhood, and that would be very disturbing to the neighbors. Have they mentioned that at all when they spoke to you?
So we did hold like a public forum at Michael's as well as went around to the neighborhood. The concerns we were brought about parking, we're making sure that no one parked in that alley. So on our end, we're happy to put up, no parking, park in the alley will be towed. And then as far as, like in advertisements and social media and everything, our plan is to suggest that people park in McCarthy Park parking to make sure you're not interrupting the neighbor. It is, it's about a block and a half away. We have been talking to the county about how we can contribute to getting McCarthy Park's parking lot refinished. It's been a process. I believe we were told that they plan on doing it in 2027. We would obviously like to move that up, so we've talked with them. We're in the process of working with the county to see if we can hold a fundraiser, if we can do a donation or a grant or something to help get that refinished a little bit to make it a nicer parking lot, because I know it's kind of rough, certainly worn down. But on our end, as far as mitigating it, our plan is to use that as a suggested parking lot. Obviously, we can't control where everyone parks. And if it becomes an issue with the neighbors, we're happy to address it then. But so far, everyone we've talked to has really just been concerned about the alley parking.
And the alley is where the trucks would exit?
Yes.
Yes. The lot isn't that large for that many trucks with a garage as it is. It would be a very crowded space. Do you plan on having any entertainment at the facility?
Like live music or?
Right.
No. So as far as what we plan for the outside space is seating, some nice string lighting, and then having some space for yard games, which we've also talked about setting some hourly limits on those. So if noise does become an issue, like if we have a bag set, we will keep the actual bags behind the bar. So if somebody wants to do it, we have some control to mitigate the noise. But we have no plans on having any outdoor music live or played from a stereo.
I see. And the bar hours, from what Steve has indicated, are only till 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock on weeknights and then 10 o'clock on weekends.
I see. And have the neighbors all received notice of this?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Lysick.
Alderman Rote and I met with the owners of Michael's regarding this proposal several weeks ago. And I expressed my concerns at that time, as Alderperson Reinke did, regarding the parking, because there is very limited parking in front of this property. Michael's is a going restaurant. They have good business. There's a liquor store. They don't own it next door. That also has parking needs. And in talking to the individuals, I asked the question, how many customers each day does it take to support a food truck? And I was told it takes about 50 customers per food truck. So if you're talking 6 food trucks, you're talking 300 customers. And if you have 2 persons in a vehicle, it's 150 cars between the hours of, 10 in the morning till 8 at night. And most of those, I guess you could whittle it down to say it's going to be in the noon hour and the evening lunch hour. So I think the neighbors have to be aware that there is going to be impacted parking in the neighborhood. They're going to be parking on Cleveland Avenue. They're going to be parking on 84th Street. There are no restrictions now. Just to let everybody know, I have no doubt that these individuals are going to operate the business as they say they are. I think it's going to be, if it goes through, a good operation. We're not talking about the moving of the tavern license this evening or the hours of operation. That goes to a different committee at a different date. And they're going to be subject to the restrictions we have on outdoor licensing in the summer hours. Because if you're going to, serve off premise, off of your onto your building, there's restrictions we have. So you have to abide by those restrictions and closing times, et cetera. So that'll be a separate issue. As far as the food truck goes, closing at 8 o'clock, It's a little bit different than what you told us at the meeting. You told me food trucks would close at 7. I have no problem with 8. That's a reasonable hour, and I think that's fine. I think there's going to be ultimately limitations on alcohol after that. I think you're going to have to be, if people are going to be eating, they're not going to be able to drinking outside. I think that cuts off at 8 o'clock. So I think you have to take that in consideration.
Yeah, and that's the
But that's-
later,
Again, that's not tonight. That's, the license is a different issue. That's at a separate night. So I just want to make you aware of that, that if that is approved, you're going to have some restrictions there. And I don't know if you've researched those or not, but just so you're aware of it. Like I said, my only issue with the entire concept is going to be the parking impact that this influx of people is going to have on the neighborhood. It's a property abuts residential on 2 sides. It's not a densely commercial area. There's some commercial right across the street. I know the argument is, well, food truck parks bring business, help spur business in the area. Well, there's a pet store across the street and an auto shop. I don't think you're going to do a lot of extra business for them. There's a beauty salon up the block, another restaurant down on 84th Street. Those are the only businesses in the area. So it's not going to be like this is going to be a bonanza for other businesses in the area. It's going to be, a profitable business, hopefully, for you two. But there isn't going to be a lot of spin-off effect for other businesses. And I also want to remind people that the city does not collect property taxes on food trucks. It's not a brick and mortar place. Food trucks can exist. They can park on the street now in front of your place if they wanted to, and exist there by state law. And there's no property taxes on food trucks. So that's it's not a brick and mortar site. So that's something that is kind of a drawback for economic development. We'd rather see brick and mortar places than food trucks. Food trucks have their place in the proper areas where they can serve a large quantity of people. And I know you're interested in getting business out of the McCartney Park area. And again, I question as I question you, if the business opportunity is there for food trucks, why aren't food trucks parking there now where they could park for free rather than pay rent to you people to park in your lot? That's just questions I have. But I have no doubt it looks like it's going to be a nice operation. I just want the neighbors to be aware that if this goes through, there is going to be an impact in parking in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Mayor
Thank you,
Devine.
Alderman Lysick. Alderman Rote?
Steve, can you share with us any of your feedback that you got from the 200-foot mailing, please?
Sure. Most of the feedback I received was positive in nature, but there were a handful of people with concerns. The one more specifically was, I believe, east of 84th Street with concerns about property maintenance, parking, traffic, I think. But for the most part, what I received was support. I mean, primarily a lot of that I saw was on social media, where I saw just an outpouring of support. And now, whether or not those people are living immediately adjacent is a question, maybe some, but I do understand that, both Sam and Lee have gone out into the neighborhood, knocked on doors. They had an open house at their restaurant, invite people in and talk to them about the proposed use if they had any doubts or concerns. There's, one other, I think, property owner just west of the location that was concerned about, views into the facility, and I think, Sam, I think you spoke about that a little bit with respect to, the hours of operation. And I think they're feeling better about it after speaking with Sam and Lee, but most of my contact with the neighborhood has been over, what I've seen on social media or what I've received directly in the office via phone call or email.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mayor Devine?
Yes,
I'd
Alderman
just like
Lysick.
to add that Alderman Rote and I have had very, very few phone calls one way or another regarding this, and emails as well. Very, very few. And I have to say, response has been about divided pro and con with this. So, you know, I'll reiterate what Steve said. I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't live in a neighborhood that are opining that they'd like to see it. And there's some people that live close by that would rather not see it. So there's a mixed bag out there with feelings. I just want you to know that we did not get a lot of talk from people about this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the Common Council? Okay, seeing none, are there any members in the audience with questions or comments on this public hearing? And just a reminder, the microphone's on, but please give us your name and address.
Deborah Zeman from the Zeman Trust. We live on 8508 West Cleveland, and we oppose this for parking is a major issue. We anticipate looking at food truck courts now and the amount of traffic going back and forth, or those who want to sit there for a long time looking at loitering. There's concerns about alcohol leaving the premises, concerns about the noise factor. We're also looking at the quality of life for the people who live on Cleveland Avenue with parking themselves on the street, since there won't be parking if there's that much, if you're looking at that many people coming there. I question whether 2 bathrooms are going to be enough. So we'd be looking at public urination. I think 6 food trucks will have a lot of different, with multiple different types of vehicles, will have a lot of different odors, and that might not make a very good smell in the neighborhood. And again, do you have planning and like security to let people, so they can't leave with alcohol? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's part of our staffing plan. Okay. I took a picture, I was gonna send to the website there. On Friday the 29th at 12:50 in the afternoon, there were 28 cars already parked in where you propose this, your current parking that has, what, 15, 16 spaces along the front, and Cleveland Avenue from 85th all the way down. And if you're going to add that more traffic with all this food truck and being able to sit and eat, the parking is really going to impact on 85th Street and Cleveland. So that's a big concern. Was there be a potential to be putting restrictions on 1-hour parking?
Mayor Devine?
Sorry, I was talking to my youth. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, parking restrictions can be put in. If people come in with a petition, certainly the older people of the district consider that.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Anybody? Oh, go ahead.
Hi there, Joey Kovneski, 8540 West Cleveland Avenue. I live about a block away from this project and have grown up in that house my entire life so far. So I've lived there about 24 years now. And I can say in that time that the corner of 84th and Cleveland has just sat stagnant. There's been no new development, no new businesses come in. I've only seen businesses go away. The abandoned office building across the street, the store in between Michael's, the liquor store in the lot, whatever that was 20-some years ago, has sat empty for the past 20-some years. So I'm just here to say I appreciate an interest in development in that area and having new ideas and new creative ideas. I look across District 4, and across District 4, there's not many projects that make West Allis what we market it as today. I look at the 6 Points community, that's not in District 4. I look at developments along Highway 100, not District 4. I look at developments along Greenfield Avenue in downtown West Allis, the National Avenue corridor, not District 4. I can't speak to anything within my district that brings in new people into the city, that makes the things that we are making our city known to be. This project helps with that. This project brings people to different parts of West Allis that they have not necessarily been to before. This project will hopefully bring new developments to the corner of 84th and Cleveland. Parking could be an issue, however, there is ample street parking on Cleveland. There's ample street parking on 84th. There's parking less than a block away in the McCarty Park parking lot. I'm envisioning this will be a walkable destination by people in the community as well, knowing that there is a crowd in the community who will appreciate this. We have a lot of younger people moving into this area who I know personally would frequent a development like this. So knowing that, I just want to speak in favor and support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions on our third public hearing?
Hi, Amy Rose Murphy, 1520 South 76th Street. Everything I've listened to today has sparked questions in my mind. To alleviate concerns for parking, would you consider maybe 4 food trucks as opposed to 6? Is that doable?
For us, I mean, the lot will be occupied by, like, we're adding AstroTurf to create a green space, and having outdoor games. So lowering food trucks wouldn't add more parking spaces. We felt like 6 was a nice fit where we could have a nice variety of different trucks. So, we talked about, we've met with some food truck owners to gauge interest in this. Our plan would be to have like, a few entree trucks, a couple appetizer trucks, and a dessert truck. So the variance in parking wouldn't be necessarily helped by lowering the amount of trucks. Our part of our operation plan is to try to keep in constant communication with the neighborhood. So when we went around and met with the immediate neighbors, they all have mine and Lee's personal cell phone, email, and we've said you can feel free to text us, call us, email us at any time, day or night, and we're happy to help deal with issues. But part of our operations plan was to make the McCarthy parking like the suggested parking. So if you're coming from out of town and you've read about it, saying, oh, park over here. We do, our goal is to also have some foot traffic coming from the people that are already at McCarthy Park for events.
Which leads me to my next question. I commend you on all your efforts. So with a lot of people I know, our family likes to walk through the park with dogs, so I would imagine that people will come through with dogs and whatnot. I didn't see or hear anything about waste disposal? It's going to be an issue. Like if they bring dogs, are you going to have a separate dog
It will
bin?
be dog friendly. We have worked with an AstroTurf company to make sure that the AstroTurf we're putting down
Odors.
It's pet friendly. It's called Pet Select Plus.
Yes.
And so we have in our operation plan a cleaning process, so it will be hosed down pretty often. We plan on having some poop bags out for people because we do want it to be a community friendly.
They have cute little dog stands that you pull the bags and all that.
And we talked about potentially adding, like a little fire hydrant statue to kind of try to aim the dogs to a certain area. Obviously, it's an animal, and you deal with it as best you can. But our plan is to keep the AstroTurf cleaned often. We specifically picked an AstroTurf that was meant to be easier to clean and more odor resistant. And then adding the poop bags and the suggestions of please clean up after your dog as best we can. We also plan on having, like as far as garbage, we're planning on having garbages at the entrances and exits, like the main walking through to try to suggest as best you can. If you're passing the garbage on your way out, just toss it, don't bring it, walk 10 feet. But we do, as part of our operation plan on having someone kind of, for lack of a better word, patrol the immediate area to clean up, a few times a day, as well as try to mitigate people from leaving with alcohol.
Right. The logistics of the trucks, you had mentioned that they would lease from you, and you had mentioned that they will have their own licenses, permits through the city. And with all the electrical components so that they don't run on their generators, I'm imagining these food trucks being open every day, that they're going to be stationary. They're not going to be coming and going every day. Or is that not the case?
So current operating legality for food trucks, I used to own a food truck, is that you have to leave a place and return to your base kitchen once a day. If the zoning ends up changing to where it's considered a restaurant, then they may not leave daily. But we do have, they will be able to back out into the alley from both areas where the trucks are planned on being parked.
So just food for thought, I don't know how this would work with zoning, but if there's a way, I don't know how long your leases are going to be, if they're going to be yearly for each food truck, but if there's a way that the city can work with them to make the trucks stay, I think that would alleviate a lot of the traffic issues in the surrounding community. Just food for thought from everything I've heard tonight.
We have been talking with the city attorney about how the licensing does shake out. So if it ends up being licensed as a restaurant, then they would be able to, they would fall under the restaurant licensing as opposed to.
And then there would be increased tax revenue. No? If they're stationary and the zoning's changed, I mean, it opens a whole can of worms, but there's a lot of ideas there that could hit a lot of topics discussed. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience on public hearing number 3? All right, then we will close public hearing number 3. Thank you, everybody, for your comments, and we will move on to item E, which is public participation. This is where the Common Council may receive information from members of the public during this 30-minute period. Each speaker must again announce to the council their name and address, sign in at the podium, and limit their comments to one statement of no longer than 5 minutes. The council cannot take action on topics raised by the speakers and will not discuss. Is there anybody that wishes to address the council under public participation this evening? I know this guy.
I have to write it first. I can't do two things at once.
It's all right, I got to start my timer.
I'm here to speak on item number 16 on the agenda tonight. My name is Marty Weigel. I currently live at 2670 South Seymour Place in the beautiful 5th District. I know. I think many people realize that up until 3 weeks ago, I was sitting in the 2nd District, representing the 2nd District as an alderman, but I was fortunate enough to find a retirement home with my wife after living in the east side of West Dallas for 40 years, and she and I moved to the west side of West Dallas. I just wanted to say thank you to the mayor, my co-electeds over the years, our city staff, and to the residents of the city of West Dallas. My 20 years on the council was much more interesting than I thought it was going to be when I first came on. I certainly learned a lot. It had its ups and downs, but I think we, the community, the elected staff, all working together, have pointed West Dallas in the right direction. We've heard some comments tonight about where we're kind of going and how we're positioning ourselves. I think a lot of what I'm thankful for is the community development stuff that we've done. You see the apartment buildings, the rehabilitation of empty properties, and I think we've really come a long way in the last 20 years. And I've been a businessman for 40 years in this community also. So when I came here in 1980, it certainly it didn't look like it does now. So again, thank you to the previous mayors, the current mayor, city administrators, current staff. Like I said, it's all been very exciting time for me. And on that note, I will add that I am running for alderperson in the 5th District because one of the alderpersons, Rosalie Reinke, is not running after many years of great service that she's provided. There's an open seat. I understand there's another person running also. I'm looking forward to an interesting campaign this year. And I hope that the citizens of the 5th District will see fit for me to put my 20 years of experience on the council to use. So I'll see you later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else wish to address the council under public participation?
Flip this over. So Marty actually gave me a really great segue. Hi, my name is Marissa Noling. I live at 1981 South 77th and wanted to take the opportunity with Marty leaving as the 2nd District Alderperson. That leaves one open seat for this April election. I am running for Alderperson in the 2nd District of West Dallas. You can find me on social media at Marissa for West Dallas on both Facebook and Instagram. I moved to West Dallas kind of accidentally in 2015 and really fell in love with the city. So much so that when we purchased a house, we very intentionally only looked in West Dallas. Have loved the direction that we're going and am very excited to continue the path. Anybody that talks to you that knows me will tell you I am one of the biggest hype people for West Dallas. I love when people tell me that, oh, you live in West Dallas and isn't that kind of, Dude, no, let's go downtown in West Dallas. Let's go to station number 6. Let me show you what West Dallas is like now. So I'd like to bring that enthusiasm as an alderperson to District 2. So again, my name is Marissa Noling. I am running for alderperson in District 2. Please find me on social media, Instagram and Facebook at Marissa for West Dallas. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to address the council under public participation? All right, seeing none, we will close public participation. And we will move to item F, announcing our standing committees. They will be meeting during recess. One adjustment, the art gallery is currently closed due to some maintenance issues, so administration and economic development committee will be meeting in this room. If you are here for a license or a permit or anything along those lines and you don't know where to go, the room numbers are listed on the top of page 2, or one of us can help you as we break for recess in a few minutes. That does conclude item F. Item G is the mayor's report. I just want to take a minute to thank all of our public works staff and our first responders and our police department, and I'm going to forget somebody, but everybody within this community that was involved in battling the storm that took place over the past 4 or 5 days. I'm actually kind of losing track of what day it all started because I spent so many hours on the phone and responding to emails, and I want to thank our public works leadership. I want to thank our forestry crews. We had over 300 trees and limbs down that pulled people off of the plow routes to deal with blocked streets and blocked alleys and blocked sidewalks. When you go from about 20 hours of heavy snow that accumulated 14 inches, that was very heavy and causing power lines to arc, which caused a lot of work for our firefighters and our police officers. And then you go right into a deep freeze, which everything that didn't get touched turns into solid ice. It was just a perfect storm of every possible curveball that could be thrown at our team was. And were we perfect? No. Did we do everything we could and try our best? Yes. And am I proud of everything that the men and women did for our departments? Absolutely. I understand there are still some people stuck, still dealing with problems. I know I'll speak for the council members that they've heard a lot of calls and a lot of emails and contacts as well. Cleanup was still going on today, but we are doing the best that we can with what we have. And I just want to thank everybody who was involved in fighting that. That does conclude the mayor's report this evening. Do we have any
Mayor
other
Devine?
person's reports? Alderman Rote.
Excuse me. I did a ride-along that night with the West Dallas Police Department. And I gotta tell you, just please, move your car to the right side of the street during a storm. It's very, very important, and if you're on a main snow route, get your car off of it. And that's all I have.
Well said. Thanks, Alderman Rote. Any other alderperson's reports?
Mayor,
Alderperson Turner? You turned your mic on, sir.
Just want everyone to know that this Saturday, I know it's cold out there, but Liberty Heights Park is having an evening of winter fun, part of the winter week. They're going to have ice skating with free skate loans, a mini skating lesson. Kegel's, I know the restaurant is having a food truck there where they're going to be giving out hot cocoa, and they're also doing s'mores with the fire pits we have there. They will have food there as well. Glow stick dance party, indoor crafts. We have a warming area, photo booth. It's so many things they're going to be doing, but just want to let everyone know. And it's going to be from 5 to 7. It was going to be later, but something's happened later on, so they can't do it. So with the Packers doing so well this year. So please, if you can come out. But Kegel's and West Allis Heating and Cooling are two of the people helping out with this, so thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Turner. There was somebody else.
Mayor Devine.
Alderperson Grisham.
Kind of to echo Alderman Turner, Winter Week did start this week. I attended Winter Week Food and Clothing Drive. This is sponsored by our West Allis Bid, After Dark Rotary Club, as well as Liberty Heights. I think all this week we have a lot of events that are happening, from the soup crawl to trivia night to fire and ice at Liberty Heights. So if you haven't heard about it, visit the bid or get on social media and attend the events. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other alderpersons' reports?
Mayor Devine?
Alderperson Stefanski.
I just wanted to make a point about the DPW and the hard work they did with their street cleaning, but because of the freezing, I witnessed something today right outside my house on the side streets. Slow down. They are still iced, and a person went right into the embankment, tore up the whole bottom of their car. So drive safe on the side streets, please.
Thank you. Any other alderpersons' reports?
Mayor Devine,
Alderperson Ranky.
I want to thank all our wonderful employees. It was a good job, and I think they deserve an applause. So could we all applaud? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other reports from the alderpersons? All right.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I'm going to yield the floor to my student counterpart, Caden from Central.
I move that the December 12th, 2023 Common Council minutes be approved.
Second.
Second. There we go.
All right. Say all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll say any opposed.
Any opposed?
All right, say the minutes are approved.
Minutes are approved.
Easy peasy. Nice job. All right, standing committee reports, we have none, so we will move on to item K.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
is there any item on the consent agenda that any alderperson would like to have acted on separately? If not, then I move for approval of the consent agenda as presented.
There's a motion
Second.
and a second. If there is no discussion, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Alderperson Rote.
Aye.
Stefanski.
Aye.
Turner.
Aye.
Grisham.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
Keen.
Aye.
Lysick.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
8 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move that we stand in recess until conclusion of the committee meetings.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? We are in recess.